First and foremost, again, I want to say thank you for everyone who came to watch and everyone watching at home because I think this is a show that's been long overdue and long awaited. Because I think like me and like you guys, you want to know about retouching in the world, of retouching in the business and the art of it. But the problem is there's so many resources or lack of resources. Like when you go to YouTube or any of these other pages, you see a bunch of retouching tutorials, but you're not really sure what to really follow. There's a lot of information out there. So before I go any further, I want to introduce you to my good friend, Felix Kunz. He's going to be the photographer for today, shooting the first looks on set. So Felix.
Well, this is good.
Yeah, thank you so much for being a part of this. I wanted to bring Felix down for one important purpose, actually many purposes, but Felix is an amazing photographer, but aside from being a good photographer, he's amazing at communicating what he thinks and how he lights things. And I think the important part about having a photographer on set is that you guys can see what it's like from the inception of a photograph all the way to the end. Because with retouching, it's not about just the retouching. It's about understanding what it's like being on set, understanding the dynamic between a retoucher and a photographer, and so you're there for the whole journey, right? So even though Felix is going to be shooting 3 different looks, we're essentially going to be talking about the retouching portion and how it's intertwined with the photographer. So anytime you guys have questions regarding the retouching behind the scenes, feel free to ask. And
by the way,
yeah,
sorry to completely cut in there. Pratik's wearing black as well. I'm like, you might as well be from New York.
Yeah, exactly,
You're in the
right?
industry.
We have a joke about that, right? Black is the essential fashion code, isn't it?
So when are you moving?
Next week. I'll be moving with you.
Good. It'd be much easier if I just had you sit in and retouch all my work.
It'd be easy to be over your shoulder. Yeah, definitely.
That'd be great. But yes, you make a good point. When you're shooting with a retoucher in mind, I know, I've been talking with Pratik about this.
Yeah.
When I have the retouching budget, I still do some of my own. When I have the retouching budget, everything changes because I'm really making sure that I can get him the file that he can work with. And he has so much more leeway than I do with my limited Photoshop knowledge than to really make that image perfect.
Right.
So should we just dive kind of right in?
Absolutely. And also wanted to keep everyone in mind is that after our shooting session is done, we're going to be talking together about the dynamic we have and going through the selects after the shoot. And from then on, kind of talking about what it's like to be a retoucher and a photographer working together to create the final product. So this is beneficial not just for photographers, but for also retouchers. And that's what we kind of kept this whole course in mind is this is not just a shooting session, but it's a retouching session. And everything plays a part in this.
Yeah, so I won't take too much time to break down. I'll go through, because I can't help myself from talking.
No, you should.
We'll go through all the setups, but we also set this up today, you'll see, as I would shoot on a commercial shoot. So we have the images tethered, and Pratik and I are going to be driving Capture One, and we're going to actually be shooting with the Phase One, which I'm really excited about. Everyone's like going like this. And it's we're going to do a beauty image with that, because it's, you get so much detail. Pratik's almost like, it's a little bit too much.
It's a little bit too much. I was like, I got scared when I first saw this thing because the amount of detail that's there, but hey, it's better because if you can retouch on this, you can retouch on anything. That's my principle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
So we should get started then.
Yeah, and I'm freezing cold in here. I'm going to put my jacket on. Sorry. Right, should we bring in the laptop and my digital station, and we'll get that hooked up to the camera. Ta-da! And we're all connected with this, are we? So first thing I'm going to do is open up Capture One and connect my phase back to it. John? Oh, everyone, this is John. He's assisting today. Are you mic'd up?
I think I am.
Ah, perfect. Good. And I can defer all the questions I don't know the answers to him. All right. Good. So I've got Phase One open here. This is Phase One is a capture software, which means I can shoot there and it tethers directly to the computer, brings the files in directly. The first thing I do on every commercial job is I'll do the light test. We'll kind of do that here. The raw file will end up coming into Capture One and it will look horrible. So everyone knows raw files, they need sharpening, they need some contrast. So we're going to start with just that horrible raw file right after we set up this light test. John, are we all ready?
I think so.
Have we all switched on? Yeah,
That's
perfect.
on, that's on.
Good. Where's my light meter gone?
Light meter's hanging from the...
I'm going to use a light meter today. This is the newfangled Seiconic with the touch screen, and it works. There we go. Good. So I've got a Chimera softbox. It's an extra small, and I love using this for beauty. It's really kind of focused, and it gives you a lovely kind of contrast on the face. And better show it on the model, trust me. John, hold this for a second. And I'm just going to get this guy. I've got it on a C-stand arm, boomed in, so that I don't have to make John hold it. The voice-assisted, voice-activated light stand that I normally use. And I'm going to play around with this again. As I did in Sue's class, and when I shoot, I'm going to get in where the model is first and have a look to see how it's going to affect her face, because I can see that just by looking at it. When I really get stuck, that's what I do. I go where the model is, and I go, right, what is the light actually doing? And I look at all the light sources to see what's hitting the face, right? Good, so we might as well go ahead and get our beautiful model Kayla in. Hi, Kayla. She's gone through hair and makeup and everything, like magic. Lovely. If you have a seat there. Brilliant.
Okay.
And John, John's being a good assistant. What are we at?
11 and a
Do
half.
you want to show that? So this, I've set this at, where am I? 1/25th of a second. That's my shutter speed. The ISO is at 100, so we're getting that really crisp, no noise image. And we're at about 11 and a half on the aperture, 11.6. So I kind of want to get down to 11. So John, if you wouldn't mind just clicking we're using Ellen Chrome lights today. I have to keep remembering to say all these things because they keep asking in the chat rooms. Good, so you've turned that down?
About 3 stops.
Okay, so 1/3 of a stop. Let's do another meter reading. Kayla, sorry, this thing's going to be in your face. Good, so 11.3. Turn it down another 3/10 of a stop.
Felix, how important is it to use a light meter on stage? Do you ever just go about without it?
I like to because I turn the screen brightness up really bright on here.
Yeah.
And then if I'm shooting outside,
that's right.
I'll be like, I can't see anything.
Exactly.
So I turn everything up, all the lights up, and then it just ends up looking horrible. You know, when you're outside, when you're in the studio, depending on how bright your ambient light is, you just can't tell what's actually going on.
Plus, you can't trust the back of your screen either, even if you're shooting.
Yeah, sometimes the back of the camera. And if this is what enables me to shoot with, I'm going to shoot with my D800 for one of the looks, and shoot with the Phase 1, because this is what tells me what's going on. I don't need to worry about what's on the back of the Phase 1 screen. I don't need to worry about what's on the back of here. And I don't even really need to worry about my computer. This is going to give me that base perfectly. So now it's not firing. There it is. 11.2. 2 more clicks, John. We'll get this just right, because then rather than being at 11.2, I'll just
And this is important because you don't want to just wing it, right? You want to make sure everything's right, as clean as possible.
Exactly, especially for you, Pratik.
Yeah, get less work from me, which is good.
Exactly.
That's why I like working with people who...
Go ahead,
yeah.
you have a question.
Why do you choose 11 for your aperture?
Because for beauty, I want to have the depth of field kind of cover most everything. I was going to go with f8. I thought last night I was lying in bed, let's go to 11, just that little bit. I make it sound far more technical than it is, but most of the lights, you can't get them, I'm so close to the model, you can't turn them down enough. They'll kind of end up being that bright anyway. So it's just mostly an arbitrary decision.
Plus, it's any closer to the sweet spot of the lens when you're shooting something?
Sure. Let's go with that. Good, so Kayla, let's try. And I haven't yet decided where I'm going to put this softbox. Russ.
Actually, Felix, just if you could set up really quick, we'd love to hear a little bit maybe about your discussion with the hair and makeup artist and how you set up that relationship ahead of time.
So usually because I'll admit it now, women are much better at figuring this stuff out. So I usually go to the makeup artist and I say, this is my idea. What do you think we should do with the hair? I wanted everything on the side, and we kind of wanted it a little bit teased, and I wanted it up. Because for the second look, I'll just take it out and we'll have the long flowing hair again. Kayla, just turn your face towards the light and up a little bit. What happens is I'm going to shoot like this, and this side of the face will have the hair kind of framing it on this edge. And I wanted that so we have some hair. For beauty, I don't necessarily want hair in the face, but this kind of gives me something for the light to bounce off of, and you'll see how that looks in the frame.
Exactly.
Midas, go on.
And I was going to say, the important part about doing makeup is that you always want to make sure after the makeup is done that you have really good, clean makeup afterwards. You don't want to just have the makeup done and just sit them all down. You want to analyze her to make sure she has really nice lip lines, good transitions in the eyeshadow, and things like that. So you're not having to retouch that later.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Although it wouldn't hurt us in the class to have something to actually retouch.
Exactly.
And actually, she came and I asked the makeup artist, would you just define the lip a little bit more for this look? So those are the kind of things we come back and forth with. And that's really just an experience point, and probably working with Lara a lot, I get to see kind of those, more fashiony beauty things. So for the eyes, we just wanted a little bit of sparkle at the top because we're going really close in, something that draws some interest there. Mm-hmm. Good. So let's do a light test. It'll be really bad to start with, I promise. Right, I'm just going to go in. I've got the, what lens do we have on here?
85.
85. So on medium format, that kind of ends up being a 50.
80.
Yeah.
An 80.
Oh, it's an 80?
80.
Yeah.
So this ends up being kind of a 50 millimeter equivalent. So I'm going to have to go quite close to the model to get that. But remember, we're on medium format, so we have tons of leeway.
Yeah.
We can crop in
Yeah.
as far as we want. So I might even do a...
What do you think about cropping? When you're shooting, do you typically shoot further outwards to crop later? Or do you shoot
Not
to
really.
crop?
I mean, I want to pretend to be from the school of no cropping.
Yeah. In theory, right?
And
Actuality.
I think to have more pixel space and then go cropped
Yeah,
is probably preferable than the other way around.
right.
Sometimes I have to think about mastheads, like if someone wants a web shot and they have some, menus, and I would need a little bit of neck to put the menu over.
Yeah,
those
exactly.
kind of
Or like
things.
if you're shooting for editorial magazines, for example, and you want to leave space for the title or captions, whatever, they tell you ahead of time typically, what they want to do. So that's something to really keep in mind.
Yeah.
It
Good.
saves me, because I've had requests where they would shoot too tight and they would say, hey, could you please, extend the frame? And sometimes the frame would have stuff in it like a sofa. And they're like, could you extend the sofa? I'm like, not really. Well, So there are things you can and cannot do. So think about your shooting intention before you actually start shooting for the retouching purpose.
Pratik, before we even start shooting,
Yeah.
what do you think about the hair and the makeup? What are your thoughts as a retoucher?
Okay, so important thing. This look especially is kind of, has full of life, I would say, and full of body.
Yeah.
So when you're going in post-production, it's not necessary to retouch every single stray hair or strand of hair because that's the look you're kind of going for. Now, if you're going to be doing stuff like straight hair looks, make sure the hair is really clean before going to post-processing because every single little strand of hair is going to take a minute or two to get rid of cleanly.
So
Yeah.
teasing is cheating for me. I can be like, no,
We wanted this look.
Crazy
Yeah,
hair.
exactly. That's your cop-out. So.
Okay, I'm learning here.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. All right, let's do a test shot, and I'll fire that off. Let me see how I get this a little bit taller. There we go. I wish you could see, there was a way to tether what I see through the camera. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Like
Good.
Google Glass?
Someone should invent that. Yeah, Google Glass. That's a good idea. Okay, Kayla, just bring your head up a little bit and then look at me. Perfect. Just insert that personality in there. We maybe like a, yeah, there it is. Good. Let's see where we're at. Oh, you see, very bright. Okay, so I'm at f11. You see how it comes off? White balance is awful. All right, so I'm gonna, maybe we'll change that around just a little bit. Every sensor, by the way, every lens has a different kind of, it can be half a stop off your meter reading, and you can actually calibrate your meter, but this is a good starting point. I'm not 100 miles off, right? I'm gonna go to, let's go to f16 and try that. Kayla, yeah, just come up a little bit with the chin. Give me that little bit of personality that you injected earlier. Beautiful. Okay. Right. Good. My crop is a little bit weird. I'm going to move the camera down a little bit, but I wanted to show you. In Capture One, this is my tether panel, and it actually gets the, can you see that on here? Yeah, it gets the aperture f16, and the shutter speed shows me my ISO. That's what's wrong. That's why we're over. The meter is never wrong. Good. Let's go back to ISO 100 and try that again. All right, and then I can go back to F11. By the way, this stuff happens all the time on set. If this happens to you, you just go, oh, let me just change something, and the client will never know. They don't know ISO. Perfect. It's like a cook show, You're in the kitchen and you drop the turkey on the floor. No one will ever know.
Meant to do
Good.
that.
That's much closer to where we want to be, right? Obviously, still, she looks a bit ill here, so
Looking green today.
a bit green today. So I'm going to change my white balance. There we go. We're a little bit closer. Now, I already see immediately, Pratik, what do you think? I want to get more detail in the hair here.
Absolutely.
First of
And yeah, no doubt about that. Especially it adds a lot more detail, especially if we can get that out now.
Yeah.
So if you want to.
Because we could go into the kind of these settings here, and I could do this, and I'm always weary because I'll happy-go-lucky, I'm on the shoot, everything's manic, and I go, right, it's too dark, I'm just going to turn this up, and then I've overexposed in post by 2 stops, and then I get to somewhere where it works for me, but I've destroyed the pixel depth.
Exactly.
So I want to start in a good place. So I'm going to change my light source a little bit. I can also look at the histogram, and this is, if I'm sending images in to the retoucher, I'm looking at the histogram, because I want to make sure nothing's clipped. And clipped means when something is completely black or completely white, because you can't get detail back out of there, can you?
Now, the good thing with shooting RAW, and please, I hope nobody's shooting JPEG for studio work. Very important point. Don't shoot JPEG for studio work. Very critical. Is that with RAW, you can rescue much more detail than you could previously. Now, cameras have evolved where we're getting much more dynamic range out of the files, so that we can pull things here and there. But it's great to have a perfect starting point. Because with good photography, it's kind of like Felix does, where he's checking every single detail before the shoot begins. It's because you want to be able to get to a point where all the detail that you want in the file is there to begin with, which is why Studio is so good, because we can add light, take away light, and really control that. So, but yes, to answer your question, we can pull back some detail later, but I think it's good to get it done now.
It's good to get it done
Yeah.
right. I mean, for this, we are, like here under the neck, I will
Absolutely.
expect to be, that will be black.
Yep.
That's a given. There is no light there, and that's fine with me.
Felix,
go ahead.
Pratik, really quick, I would love to just kind of get your thoughts briefly on what are those elements that really you cannot retouch and the photographer absolutely has to get right in studio in order for you to be able to work on an image?
Number 1, expression. If you have a model who has terrible expression, don't ask somebody to change their expression in post. You can liquefy things here and there, but it's not going to look right, obviously. There are other things, like if you have completely clipped out highlights and it's completely blown, sometimes it's not rescuable, like if you're shooting in backlight or if you're shooting with a window coming in and you bring that information down and there's still nothing there, you can't add anything. So those are a couple of things. Another big thing is if you have a model who has half-closed eyes, don't say, could you open them? Because the way Photoshop works is you can't see what's behind the eyelid. It's all one flat plane. So even if you liquefy the eyelids up, the whole eye is going to liquefy up. So there are things in mind that you have to keep in mind, especially clothing. If you have complex folds, you can't unfold them because it's the same principle. You have things that are overlapping, and Photoshop works by copying and pasting. So not revealing what's behind something. So, and it's funny because one time I had a client that said, could you please remove the tree because there was somebody behind there or something? And I'm like, that's kind of ridiculous because you really can't take away a whole tree and reveal something that's behind other objects. So, yeah.
I had a great one. Someone once contacted me and asked me if I can remove a car so that you can see the license plate on the car behind it.
Right? Like, you think it's a silly request, but it happens really often. So that's a great question.
Wow. All right. So one of the other things when I'm driving in Capture One is I'm going to get, actually we should do this in the right sequence, but I'm going to get that image right. Then I make adjustments here that Pratik will ignore. This is because I want to show the client what's going on set, and I want it to look have a look that they can understand. They don't want to see this and go, yes, I can translate that in my head because it's what they go, what is wrong with her, right? So that's why I'm going to do the adjustments, but you'll see, I just don't want anyone to get confused because Pratik's going to take all of that off again and start with the raw file.